Today, it's common for people of different races to marry, but in the 1940s, it was extremely rare. So when an ordinary British girl and an African king fell in love and decided to marry, everyone opposed their union. Their families, the British and South African governments were against it, nearly causing a war. The king even gave up the throne for love's sake. How did their love story end? And what do their 4 children look like today? Watch the full video to find out. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to get notified as I upload a new video. Let's go on. Ruth Williams was born on December 9, 1923, in Blackheath, London. Her father had served as a captain in the British Army in India, while her mother was a housewife. Ruth had a typical childhood and shared a close bond with her sister Muriel. She attended Eltham Hill Grammar School and later served as an ambulance driver at the Women's Auxiliary Air Force during World War II. After the war, she worked as a confidential clerk at Lloyd's of London. In 1947, Ruth's life took a significant turn when her sister invited her to a dance for African students, organized by a missionary society. Ruth hesitated but decided to go, a choice that would alter her destiny. It was there that she met her future husband, Seretse Khama, who was the king of the Bechuanaland Protectorate, now Botswana. Seretse's father passed away when he was only 3 years old. At the age of 4, Seretse became king, with his uncle Chikiti Khama serving as his regent and guardian. Seretse had traveled to the United Kingdom in 1944 and spent a year studying at Balliol College, Oxford. He later joined the Inner Temple in London in 1946 to pursue a career as a barrister. It was around this time that he crossed paths with Ruth. The two shared a dance and were immediately drawn to each other. Seretse was the first black man Ruth had ever spoken to. They quickly developed a strong connection and discovered they had similar interests, including a love for jazz. Over the next few months, Ruth and Seretse met at dances and talked all night. Eventually, Seretse gathered the courage to ask Ruth to accompany him to an upcoming show as his date, and she accepted. In London, a relationship between a black man and a white woman was uncommon, and they faced occasional abuse. Some strangers even labeled Ruth as a slut. Despite these challenges, the couple dated for nearly a year before Seretse proposed. Ruth initially hesitated because marrying him meant leaving behind her parents, her way of life, her friends, and her country. However, she ultimately accepted. Their decision to marry was met with opposition from everyone. Ruth's father was deeply shocked and threatened to disown her if she went through with it, saying, "You can stay at home until you get married. After that, you may not enter this home again as long as you are married to that man." Even her employers gave her an ultimatum: transfer to their New York office or lose her job. But despite these hardships, Ruth was willing to give up everything for the man she loved. On the other hand, Seretse's uncle immediately tried to stop the marriage and bring Seretse back to Botswana. He not only opposed the interracial union, but it was also customary in Botswana for the king to marry a woman chosen by the tribe. And Ruth, a white woman with no royal lineage, did not meet the criteria. Their intention to marry stirred controversy with the British government as well, especially under pressure from white-ruled South Africa and Southern Rhodesia, who opposed such a prominent interracial marriage on their borders. Consequently, the British government intervened to prevent the marriage. The couple couldn't find any priest willing to marry them, so they opted instead for a civil ceremony in September 1948. Their wedding made headlines in all the newspapers. Following the wedding, they settled in a small flat in London before Seretse confronted his people to gain acceptance for his wife. Initially, his attempts to convince his tribe, the Bamangwato, were unsuccessful. However, when he expressed his deep love for both his land and his wife, and vowed to leave permanently if his wife was not accepted, they ultimately embraced the idea of a white woman becoming their queen. Shortly after, Ruth joined her husband in his homeland. Her arrival coincided with the best rainy season in decades, which was taken as a good omen by the Bamangwato, who dubbed her the Rain Queen. Ruth participated in a Bamangwato ceremony where a group of women encircled her, singing and declaring, You are the mother of us all." Ruth and Seretse were overjoyed. However, their happiness was short-lived. South Africa pressured for Seretse to be stripped of his kingship and even threatened the British government to invade Botswana. Given Britain's dependence on South Africa for resources like gold and uranium, the British government exiled Ruth and Seretse to England in 1950, just as Ruth was expecting their first child. During their exile, Seretse grappled with depression, but Ruth stood by him, providing unwavering support. In 1951, the couple welcomed their first child, a daughter named Jacqueline, followed by a son, Ian, in 1953. Throughout their exile, Ruth and Seretse continued their fight for his right to rule. After 6 years, they were permitted to return to Botswana, but under conditions. Seretse had to relinquish his claim to the title, and they returned as private citizens. Seretse and Ruth became cattle farmers, and they had twins, Anthony and Chikiti, in 1958. However, Seretse's attempt at civilian life failed, and he chose to return to politics. He founded the Bechuanaland Democratic Party in 1961, and Ruth encouraged women to get involved. In 1965, he won the election and became Bechuanaland's first prime minister before bringing independence to the country and renaming it Botswana in 1966. Soon afterward, he was knighted by Queen Elizabeth, and Ruth became Lady Kama. Seretse became a successful and beloved ruler, and Ruth was an influential, politically active First Lady. They transformed Botswana from the world's third poorest country to the fastest-growing economy in the world. Seretse won 4 consecutive terms as president. However, in 1980, he was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer and died a few months later. After her husband's death, Ruth lived on a large farm in Botswana, dedicating her time and efforts to charitable causes and spending time with her children and grandchildren. 2 of her sons, Ian and Chikiti, have become prominent politicians in Botswana. Ian Kama was elected as the president of Botswana in 2008 and served until 2018. Chikiti served as a minister from 2008 to 2023. Unfortunately, Ruth died of throat cancer in 2002 at the age of 78, and she was buried in Botswana next to her husband. Until her last moment, she always cherished her husband's memory and never forgot her love for him. Until her last breath, my grandmother wore a necklace with my grandfather's face on a coin around her neck, revealed Ruth's granddaughter. That's what we can only call true love. What do you think of this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. And that's it. If you enjoyed the video and want more like it, be sure to leave a thumbs up below in appreciation. And if you haven't already, you really want to subscribe to my channel and tick the bell icon so you get notified as I upload a new video every week. See you in the next video.